Time for another episode of Let's Talk Laredo College with the President of Laredo College, Dr. Minita Ramirez. Dr. Ramirez, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Ruben.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too, and hello to all of our friends watching us out there. And we're happy to bring a little information to the world.
A little bit at a time.
I know.
Because there's a lot of information. Anybody who might be watching or listening, because we're also on platforms where it's just audio. So wherever you are, thank you for joining us. Last time we spoke, Dr. Ramirez, you were marking your third anniversary here at Laredo College. I didn't know that at the time. You just kind of threw that in there. But it made me think, let's talk about those 3 years that you've been here at LC. And I want to start with, what was your vision at the time when you started here at the college?
July 1st was the anniversary, the official anniversary of my 3 years here. And I think that originally when I started, the vision was more about getting to know people, getting to know the students and their needs and wants, and getting to know the programmatic philosophy of community colleges, because it is different from university. And how we report, the vocabulary, all of those things are different at the community college level. And so my idea that first year was to really get to understand and get involved at every level. And we did, and I did. Obviously dealing with boards of trustees is very different because they're elected at the universities, they're appointed. So there's a lot of distinction in oversight, in production, in how we put things out to students. And certainly we were coming off of COVID. People were still afraid to come back. And all of that changed very, very quickly.
So this was 2022.
That's correct. And so since then, a lot has happened. Yeah. But that first year, and I would say it took me about 6 months. And then I said, okay, we got to fix certain things. And we started to take some really deep dives into certain areas to really try to make things more accessible and easier for our students and our faculty and staff.
Once those 6 months were over and you started to realize, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. At that point, what became the focus? Was it all students?
I think that the more I talked to students, the more that they shared their situations, both personally and yet at the same time, how they were applying to the college, how they were either getting or not getting financial support, their personal dilemmas of, not having food to eat, and transportation was an issue, and buying books was a huge issue. And so we would start school, they didn't have books, and they'd have to wait till the next payday to buy books, and so this whole idea of what was happening. And in looking at the data of the students, we started to see certain patterns that at a certain time of the semester, which was 16 weeks long, students were dropping. And we were trying to gather information from those students as to, why are you leaving? Where are you going? And for the most part, life happens. Somebody gets sick, somebody dies, somebody loses a job, somebody's child needed something else. It becomes a time, a money, or a professional or workforce issue. And so how do we take those things off the table? I've over the years in my career, and I'm hitting almost 25 years in higher ed, but all of my life I've been in education, and understanding very quickly that college students, especially ours, mostly first generation, mostly Hispanic, well, I think all Hispanic, or at least 99.2% are Hispanic. They're all from this region. There are some very specific personal needs that we needed to take off the table. There's also this misconception of, can I really make it in college? And do I really have the time to do this? And my response to that is always, you can't afford not to. Because the future, or their future, is really dependent on whether or not they have that certificate or that associate's degree that's gonna help them get that promotion. And so, hence, we've started to really add programmatically things that make a difference, things that matter, and things that are shorter termed, but have the same long-term effect.
And so you talked about the 16 weeks, and that was one of the things that was adjusted, right?
Right.
Went to 8 week.
And so we were piloting, and when I got here that fall, we started to pilot an 8-week semester with a small group of faculty and a small group of courses. And very quickly we found out how beneficial that was. See, in higher ed, the wall, or what we call the wall, is at that 8 or 9 week point, which is midterms, basically. Then that's when everybody starts to drop. So what we were able to visualize and analyze was what happened to students when they got to 7 weeks. If they started to go see a counselor or an advisor or someone and say, look, I don't think I'm gonna make it, I think I need to get out, and drop or withdraw or whatever, then the conversation was, well, you only have a week left. Why are you gonna withdraw? Take your final exam, you're gonna be fine. And 9 times out of 10, they were. Versus, well, you got a whole other 8 weeks to go, so it became a psychological fix for many of our students, and certainly completion became better. In the fall of 24, because then that following year, we instituted more 8-week courses, and in the fall of 24, which is this last fall, we saw an increase of students going from part-time to full-time of 1,588 students.
Wow.
And if you look at that, at the end of that first 8 weeks, and then they have that little, 3 or 4 day break, they were coming back the following Monday and saying, well, I'm gonna register for 2 more classes. Because they realized, hey, I can finish 2 classes in 8 weeks. So when we report to the state, to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, we were reporting these students as completing 12 or 15 hours. Because by the time they got to the end of the 6 weeks, they had finished all those classes. And so they were enrolled full-time versus taking 2 classes for 16 weeks. And it made a difference. It made a difference, I believe, in not only completion, but in comprehension and in understanding. I think students became more astute and more aware. We could manage their attention spans better. We could manage their work schedules better, or they could. And I think faculty also started to realize, there was work that we were assigning that may have been busy work. Maybe it wasn't required. Maybe they didn't need it. And so they started to really work as teams, the faculty did, to determine what is the most important agenda or syllabus that we need to put forth so that our students get the maximum learning. And so it worked out. It's still the same amount of contact hours because courses are a little bit longer, but the contact hours are the same. They just do it in 8 weeks.
So that required an adjustment on everyone's part to do that. And the goal is not just to get them here, it's to get them out with a certificate or a degree.
Right.
And that also helps as far as funding is concerned, does it not? Because the state changed the way that we are funded, and now it's based on performance. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that?
So in the 88th legislative session, which was the year I began, and we hit the ground running trying to get House Bill 8 passed, and there was a reason. When I got here and I looked at finances, there was a huge threat financially to what we were doing, because the state didn't fund community colleges the way they were funding universities. And the excuse was always, well, you have a tax base. Well, yes. However, most community colleges serve 3, 4, 5, and in some cases 8 or 9 counties. But their funding tax base is a very small community. I'll give you our example. So our responsibility, as dedicated to us by the state and the coordinating board, is Webb County, Jim Hogg County, and Zapata County. But the only people that pay taxes to Laredo College are the citizens of Laredo. So you could live in the county, but not in the city of Laredo, so you don't pay taxes to Laredo College. And yet, we're required to offer everybody the same resources and support and instruction. And so I have colleagues who service 10 counties, and they only tax 2. So the financial income is very different to what the state thought. So we hit the ground running, pursuing House Bill 8. We had some really strong champions in both the House and in the Senate that really helped us get this to the finish line. And what it did was it really put the responsibility on the community college. You're not just responsible for getting students in, you have to complete them. We don't get funded unless they complete the course. We don't get funded unless they complete the certificate or the bachelor's degree. That's how we get funded. So technically, we're seeing our funding in the rears, but it has value and it has meaning, and they're holding us accountable. Now, there's it's somewhat complicated, and that's a little simplified way of trying to explain. For us, it is not just that we want to help our community grow and prosper, and we want to help our students finish. It's how else do we keep the college going and providing all of the support services and all of the resources and all of the instruction that we provide to our community without completers.
Yeah.
So we have to see them through.
And part 2, it was based on enrollment?
It was based on enrollment and contact hours. And it was like, don't quote me, but I think it was like $1.89 a contact hour.
And even, it just doesn't even make sense, because again, that doesn't focus on the success of the student. And so in this way, they're gonna, if they graduate, which probably they will, or get their certificate, then we both win, right?
Correct, and that's the idea. So Representative Van Dever was very instrumental in helping us get this. He was the champion that took it through. And in the Senate, we had a lot of support from Senator Saffirini, who really helped us push this through, as we did from other senators. And it was just an incredible coming together of all 50 community colleges in the state of Texas, and really pushing through an agenda that made sense for Texas. As Texas wants to put our economy and bringing industry to the state of Texas, we have to have a prepared workforce. And that means at every level. It's not just, who's going to do the work. It's who's going to be the accountant, and who's going to be. So at every level, we needed to assure, whether it's at the community college level or the university level offering the bachelor's degrees, it's a real big endeavor that we took on, and now we're starting to see the real positive effects of it. And I think that it's been a huge blessing for Laredo College, as it has for all of my colleagues.
And state funding is very particular, right? Like you can't just spend it on anything, just like even some grants. I mean, if you're getting money, it's for a reason. And so in the state, it's all got to be used for academics, or is that?
So state funding cannot be used on auxiliary services. And if you look up the definition at the coordinating board for what, or in state statute, auxiliary services are things like student health, or student life, or student government, or athletics, or rec sports, or none of that money can be used on any auxiliary service. So we have a small student services fee that helps to support student health and counseling and rec sports. And how we manage and maintain that is really through student employment. We have a small cadre of administrators, and we employ students using federal funding to help support those programs, and they learn a skill. But the money that is given to us is all tagged and earmarked for certain utilization. And I think that's the other issue. We cannot use tax dollars on anything, on everything. It's all of it is tagged and earmarked by state statute. And so, people will say, well, you all have a lot of money. Well, yes, but it can only be spent on program development. It can only be spent on academics and workforce programs. It can only, even our grants, for example, in late February, we lost a citizenship grant. So through Adult Ed, we were offering citizenship because we had a grant for $300,000. Well, we lost the grant, so we can't offer that course anymore. And, that is happening across the state. And so unless we have philanthropic support for programs like that, I can't use state funding for it, I can't use federal funding for it. And so, which means I can't use taxpayers' dollars for it. And I can't use student tuition or fees for that either. So it either becomes self-sufficient and we charge people for the course, or there's a philanthropic way of doing that. And so all of these grants and all of these issues become very complicated. And it takes, our finance department is not very large, but they do an incredible job of trying to keep everything straight so that at every audit, at every interval where we have to report, we get a clean bill of health. And one of the requirements for us when House Bill 8 passed, community colleges were told by the legislature and the governor and everybody else that our charge was, if we're going to fund you at this rate, you're going to drop your tax rate. And I'm really proud to say that since I arrived, we've dropped our tax rate about 2 or 2.5 cents every year. And this year we're proposing another drop in tax rate because our enrollment has continued to grow, our completion rates have continued to grow. We've been able to maximize that House Bill 8 funding, and we're able to drop the tax rate to support the exact thing the governor asked us to do. And so we're very cognizant of the charge. And all of this is to get students into school, get them certified or degree, get them out, transferred to a 4-year university or into the workforce. And there's one more caveat, Ruben. We got to track them for a year. And then we got to report that. Or there is a penalty. So yes, so if you hire, I'm telling the public now, if you hire any one of our graduates, let us know, because we're going to need to track that student for a year after graduation.
Oh, I learned something new today. I did not know that. We're talking to Dr. Minita Ramirez on Let's Talk Laredo College. having heard everything you've discussed so far, and really, a lot of people, most people probably don't know the intricacies of what goes on, but really, it takes time, and so now 3 years doesn't sound like a lot, because this takes time to develop, and with the 16 to 18 weeks, that took time. Everything takes time.
Right, and honestly, I think my gratitude goes to the administrators here. My executive leadership team has been outstanding, and everything that, every new idea, every new concept we have hashed out, we've whiteboarded it, we've looked at processes, we've looked at procedures, we've looked at policy, we look at state statute. Can it be done? Why should it be done? Why shouldn't it be done? Everything has to be really taken apart so that when we put something together and we submit it, whether it's to our accrediting agency or to the coordinating board or to the auditors or to the governor's office, we're okay. And then the faculty have really been incredible in realizing that some of our new requirements were not our choice, but something we have to implement. All of this to benefit our students, to benefit our business and industry community, our healthcare community, all of it to continue to grow, not only Laredo, but the 3 counties we service.
Some of the other things that we've discussed in the past include the Palomino Pledge, you've got the meal plan, and you've got the OERs, which really basically means you don't need to buy books anymore. That all contributes, right?
Yeah, it does. And so we were able to very quickly come up with a plan. When we figured out that first 6 months and people were complaining about finances, and some students had fallen out of financial aid for whatever reason, and we're coming back 1 year, 2 years, 4 years later and saying, I really need another certificate, but I don't have the funding and I'm out of financial aid. Well, to get back on financial aid, you need that transitional semester where you prove yourself. And so we came up with the Palomino Pledge. These pledges and promises across the state of Texas, colleges and universities have made those pledges and promises to students everywhere. We had not done that. In looking at our finances, I can't tell you that our CFO, when I told him the first time we were going to do it, he looked at me, he said, "Ma'am, we can't." I said, "But we will." We didn't do it the first year, but we did it the second year, because after we started the implementation of House Bill 8, and we started to see enrollment grow, and we started to see that our students were actually finishing their courses and continuing to enroll and graduating, and we were reporting all of this, he said, "We can do it now." And I said, "I told you." So we have this ongoing continuous data analysis, because all of these programs, our free meal plan, our Palomino Pledge, those are OERs, are really components of full-time enrollment and state support and our philanthropic support.
Because you have to be a full-time student to take advantage of some of these things, right?
Right.
So the Palomino Pledge, the meal plan, and the free books, that's amazing.
Right.
But you've got to be a full-time student.
Well,
right?
no, your free books are going to be automatic.
Okay. So
Free books are whether you're enrolled in 1 class or you're enrolled in 4 classes. Your books are free. The meal plan and the Palomino Pledge, you do have to be enrolled full-time.
Okay.
Because it offsets itself. Basically, if you're enrolled for 12 hours, you can take 2 classes the first 8 weeks, 2 classes the second 8 weeks. That means you're enrolled full-time. That means that we're going to be able to claim that, and we're presuming that you're going to finish them all 4. And that with the state funding we're going to get, if you need financial support, we can help cover that additional financial support. And the OER contracts.
And so all of these things come into play when we talk about Laredo College being affordable. Aside from that, I've learned that tuition has not gone up here at Laredo College.
No. In 11, almost 12 years,
Wow.
we have not raised tuition and fees. So what I tell students now is you're coming to Laredo College, you're getting a state-of-the-art education at a price from 2008. That's the price they're paying. And so we have not had to do that. And now with House Bill 8, we certainly won't do that. Now, I think the governor also, in this 89th legislative session, did put a moratorium on tuition and fees at colleges and universities for 2 years. But we never had the inclination or even the thought that we were going to have to raise tuition and fees. We were not ever, that was never a consideration.
Not on the table.
Never.
If you've done a lot of grading over your career, if you had to grade yourself for the last 3 years, what would you give yourself?
That's hard.
And explain your word. No.
Yeah, well, I think that's hard. I'm usually very much harder on myself,
Sure.
I think, than I deserve. And I think that's been part of the reason why I've been so able to stay grounded is that, I always think we've done really great things and we've supported this institution really, really well over the last 3 years. And I'd like to give myself an A or an A minus because, or a B plus plus, because I think there's still a lot more we can do.
Yeah.
I also think that as we've moved and trailed through some of the things we've had to do these last 3 years, it's been a journey, and it's been an incredible journey. And certainly when we see the students walking across the stage, or we see our dual credit students walking across the stage in their high school robes, already getting a college certificate or an associate's degree, that's amazing. And but it's taken so many of us. It's not just me, it's not just my idea, it's really a group effort. And we don't always agree, but we always respect each other. And we respect each other's experiences and knowledge. And I think that as long as we continue to treat each other with dignity and respect, and we keep focused on being student-centered all the time, and that we focus on the outcomes of our students and not the money, I think we will continue to do great work here at Laredo College and continue that pursuit of excellence for all students, all of our community of learners and educators, and certainly for the community at large that we service.
Looking ahead for Dr. Minita Ramirez, for however long you want to consider looking ahead, what's the one word that you would use to describe what's coming next?
Resilience. We have to be resilient. We have to stay the course. That sustainability that's expected of us has to be flexible and changing. And so we've got to be resilient, and by that I mean we've got to keep pushing forward, but we've got to make sure that what we've done in 3 years is sustainable long term, but flexible, because it's going to continue to change. And some changes are going to be imposed on us, and other changes are going to be because of the evolution of our communities, because of the evolution of the workforce, because of the evolution of universities and degree plans. There's a lot of talk right now about a 90-hour bachelor's degree. And what does that mean for an associate's degree? And so we're already looking at what other states are doing, what other countries are doing as they drop their requirements for bachelor's degrees. And the impact that experiential learning and internships are having Are we moving in that direction as a country? I think we are.
How many is a bachelor's degree right now?
120.
120. So going down to 90 potentially.
Yes, sir.
Talk.
It's already in the talks, and
Yeah.
people are already looking at, what would that mean? Because there's this anticipated hurry to graduate. And as we move through that, we have to be resilient in that it's not just what we want, and it's not what we do the here and now and today is not going to be the same tomorrow or next year. Because if we're not that flexible and if we're not that open to change, we're going to fall behind.
Yeah.
AI is changing everything. It changes the way it's changing the way we report. It's changing the way we bring students in, how we graduate them, what expectations they have of us in our teaching, and what are the expectations of universities and the workforce. And it is very different.
And I keep saying this, but AI, we're just at we haven't hit
Not even.
where it can be. And so and I think the word hurry applies to our society in general now. It's not just about getting that education in a hurry. Everything is about doing things in a hurry.
Everything. I'll give you a perfect example. I got an email on Monday from a friend. Her son had applied to school on Friday. And it was Monday and it was 10:30 and they hadn't heard anything. Well, okay, if you go through Apply Texas, it takes them 2 days to process. And by the time we get the tape, and then we upload it overnight into our system, and then we have to start processing and matching up transcripts and matching up all of the other requirements, bacterial meningitis, and all these things have to be matched up before we can send out an admissions letter, verify citizenship, verify, all of that, it takes time. And we still have many processes that are manual because they're new.
So it's not going to happen from Friday to Monday.
No, it's
people
not.
wanted to. That's the thing. That's
They
the whole
do.
hurry in today's society. It's really a tall order, Dr. Ramirez, to focus on what you're doing today for the students while keeping an eye on the future in regard to changes at every level. And so that's definitely something that I don't think a lot of people know about, the having to keep an eye on what's coming down the road and while maintaining what you're doing. And it's just, plus just here learning today all the time that it takes to implement things, it's really a tall order.
It's hard, and staying ahead of the game, doing all the reading at night and on the weekends and catching up on all the articles and all the opinion pages and really keeping up with friends that I have in other states. What are they doing? What is Florida doing? What is New York doing? What is Kansas doing? And fortunately, I've been in this business long enough to have made friendships across the country through many opportunities that I've had to keynote at national conferences and state conferences. And we keep each other informed. And different people are trying different things.
No, I'm sorry, and I didn't want to forget this, and I know we've already talked quite a bit, but can you talk about the Aspen? I'm not real familiar with that, so you're going to have to key us in on that.
So
That's definitely a big accomplishment from what I understand.
It is. So Aspen is an institute, a national institute. It's a nonprofit, and they do a lot of data research, and they do a lot of support for individuals. They do grooming, they do support services, they do auditing, they do all kinds of really cool things. And then they put out a lot of their research to the general public.
So it's the Aspen Institute.
It's the Aspen Institute. You can find it on the web. And they have a program for presidents. It's called, for us, it's called an Aspen Fellowship. And you have to be nominated. You have to, then you get a letter saying you've been nominated, you need to submit an application. And so once that happens, then they vet all of the applicants and it goes on. And so this year that I've been part of the Aspen Fellowship, they had over 200 applicants. Well, because all these people were nominated, and so then they reach out to about 200 people, and we're asked to apply. And so I wasn't going to apply. Based on our conversation, I just thought this is too overwhelming, and I just don't have the time. But I got numerous calls from state colleagues who said, you need to apply, because in Texas, only 3 Texas presidents had gotten asked to apply. So I applied, and I was the only Texas president to be selected. And so it was a huge honor, and there are only 25 of us, there are 33 of us in the cohort. Because originally they were only gonna pick 25 and they picked 33. And I was the only one from Texas. And so it's been an incredible journey, because they really help you do that data analysis that sometimes we assume or presume we know or understand, but we don't, because we don't take all that time. And so it has really helped us refocus some of the work that we're doing. In addition, not only do they have the President's Fellowship, they have a Rising President's Fellowship. And so, their people get nominated and then they're asked to apply. And so that's another part of the program. There's a third piece to the program, and that is we, as an institution, can be asked to apply. So my second year here, we were asked to submit our institutional performances, all of our statistics, whatever, to them because they asked us to apply. We made it to the 3rd round.
Oh, man.
And then that was it. So hopefully in the near future, we will be asked to apply again, because I think we've made some huge changes and accomplishments that have been attained to support the whole student. And that's what they're wanting to do. They want us to really take a deep dive, look at what we're doing. Are we meeting our mission and vision? Are we meeting our strategic goals? Are we supporting not only the students, but the faculty and the staff? And are we providing that professional development for everybody? And so how we position ourselves of being the college with something for everyone is critical. The last piece to Aspen is they also have a program for presidents and trustees. And I'm really proud to announce, we haven't really announced it yet, but I got the letter last week that we've been asked, and our board of trustees are thrilled, to be part of the next cohort of presidents and trustees to do the Aspen Fellowship.
Wow.
So, I think that when you look at our recognition at the state and national level, I think people are noticing Laredo College for not just who we are, but what we're doing. And I think that is really the feather in our hat.
And I think at the time it may have seemed like you were in this for personal accomplishment, or that would be a great personal accomplishment, but the college is benefiting from you being a fellow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
And that's the whole idea,
Yeah.
right? Is how do we make sure that through this Aspen process, we continue to grow, that we continue to sustain the core of our journey or the educational journey that we provide, but how are those courses, how are those programs actually preparing our students for today's world?
Yeah.
Whether it's the workforce or the academic training or professional schools later, how are we making sure that what we're doing is really having that impact?
So you're in, but you brought the college along with you as well. So that's great news. Dr. Ramirez, on that note, I will end the conversation. Congratulations on 3 years and good luck to however many more years you have left. I know you've got a lot of things in store for this college. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Ruben, and thank you to all of you for the support, the kindness, the prayers, because I run into people all the time and they'll say, I'm praying for you. And I'll say, keep praying. And so don't ever stop. You know, the press has been great to us. The students have been very patient with us. And so the faculty and the staff have been encouraging and supportive and willing to make the changes that we're being asked to make and certainly pushing forward. And so I'm really grateful and I'm really humbled to be the president of Laredo College.
And it's paying off and the proof is in the pudding. And so congratulations again and thank you so much for everything.
Thanks, Ruben.